Ubisoft is drowning. But what makes this decline so interesting is that it's a situation that they themselves have created. It's like being buried alive, except you are the one who did it and you still have the shovel in hand for some reason. So I wanted to talk about Ubisoft's current debilitating status, how we got here, and what they could do to try and turn it all around. So let's start with the announcement of yet another Skull and Bones delay, a game that started so well on paper. Let's take the main thing people loved about Black Flag and make a game out of it. Unfortunately, it feels like the idea was written on toilet paper about 10 years ago, because that's when it started its journey, 2013. That was the year The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5 battled it out for Game of the Year, and we watched it unfold on Spike's VGX Awards, which took place in a warehouse for some weird reason, because the Game Awards didn't even exist yet. Since then, the game has been delayed 6 times, and if you want an in-depth breakdown of its rocky development, check out Camp Koji episode 136 on your podcast platform of choice. I'll link it down below. But Skull and Bones problems serve as a prime example of Ubisoft's core issues: management and their lack of focus. Skull and Bones went from a Black Flag expansion to an MMO called Black Flag Infinite to a multiplayer shooter that was modeled after Rainbow Six Siege with boats to a PvE mode called Hunting Grounds, then to a Rust-like survival game which transformed into the game you see today. So it's no surprise why this game has taken so long. And Ubisoft also revealed that they're canceling 3 unannounced games, and if you add that to the last 4 they canceled last June, that's 7 games canned in just 6 months. So, how did Ubisoft get here? Well, let's start all the way back in the 2000s, which was the decade that laid the groundwork not only for Ubisoft becoming Europe's biggest publisher, but it was a decade where their most iconic franchises were born. It was a decade Rayman rose in popularity. Rainbow Six Vegas reinvigorated the IP that began in 1998. The Tom Clancy series was expanded with the introduction of Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, End War, and Hawks. It was the rebirth of Prince of Persia with Sands of Time. Far Cry and Assassin's Creed were introduced alongside Brothers in Arms. And we got some great one-offs in 13 and Beyond Good and Evil. But these games were just one pillar in their success. They also stretched their publishing muscle by bringing some iconic titles to Europe, including Elder Scrolls Morrowind and Resident Evil 4. They also understood the power of adapting pop culture shows and films to video games, so they released a few Disney and Batman games and a few movie tie-in games. And while these were never going to be in line for Game of the Year awards, they did exactly what they were designed to do. They made money. The Avatar game sold 2.7 million copies in 5 months, while Peter Jackson's King Kong sold 4.5 million copies in just 6 months. And this was also the decade where they identified a casual opportunity with Nintendo, releasing the Pet, Imagine, Style Lab, and MyCode series on DS, and being the first publisher to anticipate the Wii's success before it exploded, launching 6 games in its first month and publishing one of the Wii's most iconic games, No More Heroes, and of course the mega hit Just Dance. This was the decade where Ubisoft succeeded because they identified trends and hit them right at their sweet spot. The 2010s decade saw Ubisoft continue to grow key franchises and introduce a few new ones. Some of their hits included both South Park games, Rayman Origins, Child of Light, Valiant Hearts, Watch Dogs 1 and 2, The Crew, and Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. But this decade also exposed where their focus lied, which was identifying what was selling and turning it into a machine. Assassin's Creed, for example, released nearly 30 entries across PC, console, and the bulk of them on mobile. Just Dance saw 21 separate entries alongside dance experiences for Michael Jackson, Black Eyed Peas, and ABBA. This was the beginning of Ubisoft's trend chasing rather than trend setting. Rayman Origins was universally loved, but instead of funding sequels, they recycled the assets into mobile releases because that's where they expected the money to be. Fans began noticing games were being rushed out the door. Ghost Recon Breakpoint was a mess, Assassin's Creed seemed to be getting worse instead of getting better, and Far Cry 3 created a formula that the rest of the series would religiously stick to. Innovation was replaced with quick turnarounds in order to maximize profit. It's no wonder that this was the decade that Ubisoft's stock price peaked, hitting $107.90 in July 2018 before nosediving down all the way to where it currently sits at $20.79. That's an 80% loss in just under 5 years. And Ubisoft's profit losses are actually a direct result of their pursuit of profit, as they chose money over fresh experiences, innovation, and delivering quality products. Rainbow Six Siege gave them a taste for that live service money, and they used it as a green light to fill their other games with microtransactions, frustrating Odyssey and Valhalla fans with ridiculous prices and time-saving XP boosts. The pursuit of profit also caused Ubisoft to begin chasing trends rather than setting them, resulting in the last 5 years feeling uninspired and soulless. Starlink Battle for Atlas was Ubisoft seeing how much money Skylanders and Amiibo were making, but showing up years after the trend peaked. Watch Dogs Legion was a game that couldn't justify its own existence and felt like it was built around a singular idea. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could play as an NPC? Immortal Phoenix Rising was Ubisoft noticing Breath of the Wild's success and attempting to replicate it. Hyperscape tried to capitalize on the Battle Royale trend, but didn't do enough to rise above the competition, lasting less than 2 years. Far Cry 6 felt like Far Cry 5 with an asset swap. Rainbow Six Extraction felt like a Siege PvE add-on sold as a full game. They were unsurprisingly the only company to inject NFTs into a game, and it's obvious it was greenlit as a way to make money and not an initiative to add something innovative to a struggling game. Ghost Recon Frontline was their answer to Call of Duty Warzone, which is such a dumbass idea they canceled it within a year of announcing it, and their current pipeline is dreadful. Beyond Good and Evil 2 broke Duke Nukem Forever's record for longest game development time because it was announced in May 2008. The same year, IGN awarded Game of the Year to Fallout 3. Assassin's Creed Project Red was another trend-chasing indicator, as Ubisoft ignored fans' feudal Japan requests for years until Ghost of Tsushima proved it can be successful. It was announced alongside the opening of their new Assassin's Creed factory, announcing 6 new titles in an infinity metaverse-like hub. And that decision isn't driven by anything but money, because AC has been their most profitable franchise of the last decade. This company can't even deliver something as simple as a Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, a game announced in 2020 that is currently indefinitely delayed. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and massive Star Wars project might be the only things for Ubisoft fans to be excited for until they notice a job opening for a monetization specialist. The rest of Ubisoft's future is free-to-play money grabs. Rainbow Six and The Division Resurgence are free-to-play mobile ports. The Division Heartlands, free-to-play. X-Defiant, a free-to-play shooter that looks awesome if it was released 7 years ago. Project Q, a free-to-play Fortnite copy. And Project U, a free-to-play co-op shooter. This company has chased money for so long, they have completely lost their identity. Ubisoft has a painfully obvious leadership issue. They have Yves Guillemot, a captain who ignores advice and instructs his team to fly the ship straight through a meteor field, and then yells at them to bring them home safely while simultaneously repairing the damage caused by his decisions. Amidst the countless allegations levied against the company in 2020, Yves chose to sweep them under the rug and dodge accountability. And now he's doing it again, telling employees, quote, "The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving." This company's enormous failure is on your shoulders and yours alone. Your talented developers only do what you and the rest of the leadership team instruct. You thought that rushing games, chasing trends, and sticking to what makes the most money, squeezing customers' wallets through microtransactions was the best path to success, and guess what? It wasn't. So, outside of their company being sold for pennies on the dollar, what can Ubisoft do to reverse course? There are a few things they're currently doing right. Rainbow Six and The Division going mobile should bring in some much needed revenue. I will begin canceling a bulk of these free-to-play projects because I honestly don't think Ubisoft has the patience to properly execute them. And if you do nothing but release a clone of an already successful game, it's gonna fail. Instead, you gotta look for unique multiplayer opportunities to lay down your own path. Splinter Cell's multiplayer Spies vs. Mercs would work so well in today's multiplayer landscape. It's not even funny. Also, if you're gonna chase trends, you gotta chase the right ones, right? So along with that Spies vs. Mercs mode, you throw in an Among Us mode where a bunch of mercs defending a warehouse have no idea one of them is a double agent quietly sabotaging them all. Fantastic is turning The Division into a multiplayer survival MMO, but you guys make The Division. Straight up jack that concept, and I guarantee you more people will be interested in that division rather than Heartland. And I think they need to go back to their roots. Instead of casting a wide net with games, they need to laser focus on an established audience and invite others into that circle. Give fans a proper sequel to Ghost Recon Wildlands, which worked really well, instead of trying to change the IP into something that it's not. And above all, you gotta let your creative teams be creative again. You know what's the most talked about Far Cry since Far Cry 3? An expansion called Far Cry Blood Dragon. And last month, they released Far Cry Lost Between Worlds, an expansion that looks much more interesting than the base game. You need to let these teams run free because our industry thrives on creativity. It's what drives us forward. And you have to get back to publishing new and innovative single-player games. Now look at EA, a company that learned a lesson or two from money chasing with their Battlefield and Battlefront failures. Need for Speed Unbound was a fresh new take on the IP. Now, the first 3 months of this year, they got Dead Space, Wild Hearts, and Star Wars Jedi Survivor. 3 great-looking games that are just trying to deliver an amazing experience and not trying to nickel and dime players. So, let me know down in the comments. I want to know if there's anything Ubisoft has coming in the future that you're excited for, and I want to hear your ideas for what they could be doing to get back to their former glory. Like it, subscribe, and check out this video right here because YouTube thinks you'll enjoy it. And let's be honest, there's no way AI will ever steer us wrong. So thanks for watching. Check that out. Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks.